few years ago, you couldn't have paid me to believe that I would be in front of a TEDx stage. And I definitely wouldn't believe I'd talk about what I'm about to talk to you about this afternoon. The title of this talk, How Schizophrenia Cured Me, has a concept more powerful than you can imagine. Would you believe that most of it speaks of the formula for how I overcame the diagnoses of both schizophrenia and depression? Journey with me. Imagine being in a confined space, sitting as one of about 11 people in a group. The spotlight goes around everyone in the room to explain why their life has meaning. And so you listen for about 20 minutes to think about all the wonderful things that you could share in your life. Well, up until that very moment, I didn't understand why I was even invited there. As soon as it was my turn to share, however, it hit me. I was in a mental hospital for a reason. I felt so sad at first, hearing all the other patients fumble over words to justify their existence on earth. I thought surely I was the bright spot in the room, because at the time I was admitted, I was in mid-process of signing a recording contract with Oscar and 11-time Grammy Award winner Pharrell Williams. But when it was my turn to speak, I found myself fumbling in thought, and likewise with my words. None of my prior experiences had any relevant significance in my mind in that moment. How I was able to come out on the other side of that, to being in front of you right now for this meeting, it wasn't because of medication. And it wasn't because of an amazing support system. In fact, I had no support system. And the medication that I was prescribed was grossly ineffective. What led me here to you, in front of you today, having broken through, fully regenerated, and free from the diagnosis of both schizophrenia and depression, is attributed to one thing only: knowledge. I lived in a psych ward for 10 days. I was given a medication called Risperdal originally. After explaining to the doctor that it made me feel like a weight was pressing down on my brain and keeping me from thinking, and that it apprehended me from staying awake even when it wasn't time to sleep, the doctor then gave me another drug. This time it was Zyprexa, which did the exact same thing, just on a smaller scale. I would sit in my assigned bedroom, stare out of the window to try to console myself. With tears in my eyes, I would sing, I went to the doctor to open up my heart. He got my symptoms all mixed up. He didn't know where to start. But ain't no doctor in this world that can keep a broken heart from falling apart. 'Cause they don't know. No, they don't know. So where does knowledge have its ground as a curing agent? Now, clearly I'm no clinical psychologist, but clinical psychologists are trying to figure myself and my community out. And when I say my community, I mean all of us whom have had to deal with a mental illness. We're not trying to figure out clinical psychologists. There's a difference between the speculation of a symptom from the outside perspective and actually living with those symptoms, even if you don't really know what they are. In short, we're all speculating mental illness. The great Albert Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, but it is the training of the mind to think. Clearly, we've all heard that. But do any of us know the depths of what that really means? Education is knowledge. It isn't school. It isn't a grade. It isn't a college. I'll give you an example. At the moment of me mentioning my name to anyone who didn't know it beforehand, we'd all say that person has now been educated on that fact. But the thing is, that fact doesn't tell you who I am. According to Einstein's revelation, that piece of information, learning my name, was just one tool for training you to rationalize who I could be. which means you need other bits and pieces of information about me. And with each new single piece of knowledge, your perspective would expand on who I could possibly be, altering your perception, changing and transforming your rationale each step of the way. Einstein was literally saying, knowledge is the training of the mind to think. Knowledge is the training of the mind to think. There's three important words in that statement. Knowledge equals training equals thinking. How's that for an idea? Now, according to psychiatrists, schizophrenia is a disorder that affects a person's ability to think. It's characterized by thoughts that seem out of touch with reality. And now, at one point, my thinking was way off, and I mean way off. One particular night, I believed my mom was a secret government agent, providing them information on my whereabouts. No, really. You see, the night before I was arrested, and of course the case was dismissed for being wrongfully arrested, but while there at the precinct, I was asked to look into a bright blue laser-like light, which I believe was my mugshot. And so the next morning, or the next day at my mom's apartment, I believed that the bright blue light coming from her DVD player was a surveillance camera, capturing my every move. You know, the light that indicates that the power is on? Well, my brain made its own associations from the night before and put two and two together. Mom was obviously in cahoots with the government. She had to be a spy. I got so frightened, I left her apartment around 10 p.m. that night, and I walked just shy of 8 hours. We're talking 20 plus miles to a friend's house to escape what I thought was a trap. I didn't get to his house until maybe 6 a.m. He lived about a 25-minute drive from me. My feet were so tired. Now, one could argue that type of thinking definitely needed a corrective drug to stabilize adroitness. Well, a week after that incident, I was admitted into a hospital, then released 10 days later with medication to take. But the drugs didn't work. And with true awareness that my thinking wasn't copacetic, I lost my self-confidence. I lost my zeal for life. I fell below rock bottom. So much so that I considered suicide on more than one occasion. It happened that on one memorable evening, there was a dramatic upturn. I began to engulf myself in knowledge consumption. And to be honest, I only did so because a millionaire that I followed stated that knowledge was the number one reason why the wealthy are wealthy. And he also made a very bold statement that health, wealth, love, and happiness are the pillars of the good life. And wanting to be a millionaire myself, I grabbed hold of those ideas and I ran with them, both of them. I began to study those 4 topics like my life depended on it. And as it turns out, miraculously, it did. After filling my mind with books and seminars and podcasts on each of those pillars, well, like my earlier example of my name alone not being enough knowledge to rationally perceive who I really am, my thinking began to adapt to every new piece of information I was bringing in, which was altering my perception of reality with each ongoing piece of knowledge. Books like The Happiness Hypothesis helped me to see that depression only exists when one's affections are set on opinions of outside ideologies. Now, the book didn't say that, but I was able to grasp that truth from what I did read. My misconceptions of what actually matters, mainly other people's opinions, were obliterated by new thinking ability, drawn from learned facts. Books like The Selfish Gene helped me to see just how significant my life really is. It highlighted that my sperm that fought off every other million of sperm in order for me to be born demanded that I was significant from the start. So you see, all the information that I was gathering was training me and teaching me how to think. How to think. It wasn't the facts that did it by themselves. It was the compiling of various insights that structured and ultimately built a new framework for me to see life through. Bye-bye depression. Bye-bye false realities. And after knowledge stormed in and reprogrammed my brain, it actually offered something other than a new lens from which to see. It resulted in a laser focus through which I was able to observe and feel each growth spurt in my thoughts in real time. I'll say that just one more time. It triggered the focus to be self-aware enough to observe and feel each growth spurt in my thinking in real time. I can't even begin to explain to you how powerful that is, how quickening it was. In a matter of a month, knowledge had become my number one passion and pulling force. I'm talking about in life. Empire State Buildings above what music ever did for me. Music was utterly boring compared to the bliss and excitement I got from learning how to develop my thinking. I was reading over 10 hours a day. That is until my increased thinking ability prompted me to design a schedule for myself to relinquish the creative juices I was storing from all the information I was gaining. Each day became military-like. My schedule consisted of reading, vocal recording, writing, vocal training, guitar practice, and I finished my nights with more reading. 5 long years of dedication to developing self. 5 long years of dedication to developing thinking. It was the most fulfilled I'd ever been in my life. I had purpose. I woke up like it was Christmas every day. I would feel slighted to have to give my time to anything other than purposeful work. And the more I read, the more energy I had, because the knowledge was teaching me exactly what I was capable of. And when you've learned you can take down a giant, you look forward to that battle, and you seek it often. That's exactly what it was like waking up for me every day. In that time, I even wrote a book about my struggles and my methods used to overcome to help others dealing with mental disparities. I also founded a social enterprise, we call them nonprofits, by the name of Third Dimension Dreams Laboratory with the very same mission. Isn't this interesting? I remember hearing an interview that Jerry Seinfeld did. He said he chases mental energy over money. Is it irony that he's also loaded with money? I really don't think so. Revisiting the title once more, How Schizophrenia Cured Me, I hope to have laid out plainly that I'm far more mentally capable than I ever was, even before going into the hospital. A mental health diagnosis came bundled with the reality of rock bottom, but it caused me to break out of my normal, absolutely revolutionizing my entire existence. Never in a million years would I have thought that knowledge is as powerful as it really is. I mean, yes, it's literally created the world we live in, but all of our lives, it's only been sampled to us as a way to achieve a grade. It's been a measuring stick for bragging rights. And also never in a million years ever believing that I would have to deal with the mental illness. I'm grateful and profoundly thankful that knowledge is as easily accessible as it has ever been since time began. In these days, like today, it's a curing agent. I'm the empirical evidence of such a notion. You don't want to see me in the state that I was in before my breakthrough, trust me. So to all those dealing with the mental illness, or those who will face a mental battle in the future, or even those who just want to create a future of sustainable success, I admonish you to consider knowledge as a source for your procurement. It proved to be the cure for me. I'm wondering what it could really do for you. And that, I think, is an idea worth spreading. Thank you.